Well, John, maybe that silence after your question to Faisal was rather indicative that there really isn't an awful lot of obvious action that they can take. This is precisely what I discussed with the Prime Minister. And by the way, the backdrop to that interview is rather depressing and poignant here in New York, because here too the markets have drooped by a whopping 3.5% the last time I checked a few minutes ago. Now, when I spoke to the Prime Minister, he was extremely adamant that there has to be that decisive action and now. And I asked him to clarify what he actually meant by that.
Every country has got to face up to its own problems and difficulties and deal with them, whether that is debts in the Eurozone, whether it's problems in banks, whether it's dealing with our deficits. Every country has to do that. And that's why I've come together with leaders of countries in the G20, but as diverse as Mexico, Canada, Australia, South Korea, and signed a letter to President Sarkozy, who's leading the G20 this year, to make exactly that point. Face up to the debts, face up to the deficits, face up to the problems. Every country in the world has got to do that in a coordinated way so we can get growth moving.
Everyone in that letter, including you, calls for a path to growth. Now, how are you going to achieve that growth in the UK? It's clearly not there. The economy's flatlining.
Well, clearly, in the UK, because we were left such a massive budget deficit, there isn't the opportunity to cut taxes and spend more money. Interest rates are already incredibly low, but I believe in monetary activism, using monetary policy where possible. But the most important thing we can do is actually to improve the productivity and efficiency of our economy. Make it easier to employ someone, make it easier to set up a business, make it easier to grow, to build, to expand. Those are the steps that we're taking in a very, very aggressive growth plan.
But aren't you going to have to do what the IMF wants you to do, which is to roll back some of the cuts in order to allow more growth to happen?
Well, what the IMF has said is that our policy stance is appropriate and that to do differently would be inappropriate. But let me make this more general point, because I think it is very important. What we're facing is the recovery from a debt crisis, not the recovery from a traditional cyclical recession. A normal recession, yes, you just turn on the monetary taps, you spend more money, you cut taxes, and your economy recovers. When you're recovering from a debt crisis, you've got to deal with the debts in your banks, the debts in your households, the debts of your government. And if you don't deal with those debts, you won't get your economy to recover. You can't spend your way out of a debt crisis.
On the Eurozone, Greece is clearly a huge problem. It continues to spook the markets. Should Greece opt out of the euro? Would that help everyone, including Britain?
What we need is for Eurozone countries to come together and to act decisively. The first step is to complete the Greek programme they've already put in place and to make sure that money is in place and the changes they put in place. And the argument I'll be making in my speech in Canada tonight is that we cannot go on kicking the can down the road. We need decisive action, swift action, to deal with this issue.
But what is that? What is that action?
First off is to complete the package of measures the Eurozone countries agreed on the 21st of July. It's to deliver the rest of the Greek programme and to show the world that the Eurozone is acting decisively. But we have to be clear, this must be fixed.